Hey, welcome back to Pottery Plus. Today, to get back into our tutorials, we are going to make the easiest beginner hand building project that you can make, and we're going to turn this piece of clay into a little tray or a little dish. This is a project that I do with my middle schoolers or even adult students when they're just starting out, and it's just a great project to get the feel for the clay, and also you can make kind of a cute little product out of it as well. So to get started, I'm just going to roll this piece of clay into a slab. This is about 1 1/4 pounds of clay, but for this project, you don't have to use any particular weight. You can kind of start with whatever piece of clay you have and just work with it as you go. So I'm gonna start to create my slab by doing what I call my press, flip. So I'm gonna use the palm of my hand to really start to stretch that clay out to about the thickness of a pancake is what I say to my younger students. Middle schoolers, if you're watching this, we just did this project recently, so this will look familiar to you. So I'm just gonna press, flip until I get to that thickness that I'm looking for. Again, about a thickness of a pancake, or if you wanna be more technical, it's like closer to like 1/4 of an inch plus a little bit. Like 1/4 of an inch is kind of what we're wanting in the final product after we use the rolling pin. So right now we're kind of trying to get like close to that, if that makes sense. One thing to look out for if you're making a slab like this just completely manually is a lot of times folks get a thicker spot in the middle because for whatever reason we just don't attend to that part of the slab as much. So make sure that you're not putting extra pressure on the edges and leaving the middle kind of unattended. Okay, I think that looks pretty good to go ahead and go in with the rolling pin. So you can see I got most of my size and my thinning done with my hand. The rolling pin is not really for that part. The rolling pin really helps us more with refining and getting the last little bit of size out of it that we can get. And I'm just gonna kind of do this quickly, friends, but if you wanna see a little bit more detailed tutorial about just this part, just making the slab, we do have a video about that. All right, so that's looking pretty good, but I always like to just cut off a little piece of crust so I can check the thickness of my slab truly, see what it's looking like on the inside. And I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna use this tool to create a circle shape because I want to make my plate or my dish into a circular shape. But the nice thing about this project is you could do any shape that you want that fits on the slab. So you don't have to do just like a geometric shape like what I'm doing. Like you could do a circle, square, triangle, rectangle, dish, any of those things work. But you can also do organic shapes or like non-symmetrical shapes. The only things that don't work very well that I've noticed is like a star shape, a sun shape, anything that has like protruding like little parts that stick off of it. That can get kind of challenging to do to create the rim of the dish on a shape like that, and it'll make more sense what I mean here in just a minute. But other than those kinds of shapes, really anything will work for this, and organic shapes are really cool for this project too. But I'm just gonna stick with my circle for today. So now that I've got that laid out, I'm gonna add some texture to it. And you could do this with texturing plates where you roll those into the surface of the clay with your rolling pin or just with your hands. You can use stamps, you can use a dull pencil. Really anything that you want will work here. I also like to use my letter stamps just as like decoration. I just think that's fun to do sometimes. So we'll just pop a few of those on the surface just for fun. And again, feel free to decorate it however you want. That part is completely artist's choice. Okay, so now we've got a little interest going on the surface. We're gonna cut this guy out using an Exacto knife and holding it really straight up. It's easy to get your knife leaned to the side and then you end up with an angled edge, which isn't the end of the world, but if you can avoid it, you would wanna try. I also always tell my students cut the edges off in pieces like this, because sometimes if you go all the way around, then when you lift the edges off, it takes your dish with it and it can bend it back. And like the main optimum goal with a slab is to keep it flat and straight at all times. So then you don't have kinks in your clay that cause problems as it's drying. All right, so I'm just gonna finish cutting this out. Well, I have this little bit here. I'm actually gonna use that as like a tab to gently lift this and move it onto a drier spot. Okay, just finish up that last little cut. There we go. So what we have now is just a flat piece, and all we're gonna do to complete this is just flip up the edges to make a rim. So that really takes this from just kind of a flat, nondescript piece that you're not really sure what it is, and it makes it really clear what the purpose of it is, because whenever you make a plate, the rim, you know, or the edge is what kind of indicates what you're supposed to do with that piece. So before I do that, I'm just gonna sort of pat these edges down, get them a little more rounded. And you could do this with like a barely damp sponge. Kind of do this part however you want. I've just kind of developed this little tapping that I like to do, because it just sort of pushes down that hard angular edge, and it doesn't rub and pull like the doesn't create the little crumblies or like the little scraps that you sometimes get from dragging your finger across the surface. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so now for like the magic. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna turn this edge and I'm gonna point this side part, I'm gonna try to point it towards the ceiling. So a lot of times what people do here though is they pinch to get it up, and what you want to avoid pinching and be like turning or bending instead. So it's kind of like this rather than this. So it usually takes me a few rounds to go around the tray to get the edge like crisp enough for my liking. So it's not just like a one-shot thing where you do it once and then you have to stop. You can fiddle around with it as much as you like and define that rim as much as you like. So now what I'm doing is I'm kind of bending it and pushing down at the bottom of the dish so that I have like a real defined bottom where it comes up against the rim. And you can probably kind of start seeing that form a little bit here. Yeah, so no pinching, just bending. And then you can just kind of take a little time to straighten it out. But that's your dish. And isn't that fun, because now you can kind of see, you can do any shape with it. You can customize it, you can personalize it. So this is a really fun little project to have in your back pocket if you're learning or teaching, because you know, anybody can do this, and yeah, they just turn out really sweet and cute. So I hope you'll try it. If you do, let us know what you think. Show us what you ended up making. And yeah, find us in any of the normal places. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye, pottery people.